In this tutorial, we'll be going over how to make a first-person controller. As you can see, you can move, jump around, you can sprint, the movement is smooth, and there are some adjustments to go around, like for example, the sprinting through the air. Also, the blending of the animation is going to be improved, like strafing or moving to the side, but I'm not really going to go in depth into animations in Unity yet, so I hope you enjoyed this video. See ya. Okay, so for this tutorial, we'll be making a character controller. So, let's create a new script. Let's call the script player controller. Go over here and create a variable of type rigid body. So, rigid body RB equals get components rigid body, create a function, put it in fixed update, then create a method, call it movement private void movement, and type in rb.addForce. Also, we need some inputs, so input.get axis raw horizontal, now you float y equals input dot get axis raw vertical. These are inputs from the input manager. You can find them in project settings. Go to the edit tab and just go to project settings, and you'll see input manager, horizontal, vertical, jump, mouse X, mouse Y. Now, create a vector 3, call this input direction equal new vector 3. Y, so X, 0 and Y, create a float, serialized field, private float, movement speed, but also we're going to create a counter movement speed, capital ICM, then we'll do get sprint value, we'll use those later, so input direction times the, forgot to normalize it, so normalize this, movement speed, rb.add, also make this relative force, so add force, it'll add a force with the object's rotation. So rb.add force, now we'll just do another vec3, velocity xz, then do new vec3, rb.velocity.x 0, and then rb.velocity.z. Okay, now set this to a negative value, set this to a negative, and then multiply this by counter movement speed. I'll just set this default to 100, set this to default to maybe 20, and that's about it. Now for the jump mechanic, jump here. First we'll need to do a private bool is grounded, so it checks if you are on the ground, otherwise you can jump infinitely. Collider, make a collider array, colliders equals physics dot overlap sphere, now transform dot position plus an offset, let's take that, offset, well, we have to create the variable first, serialized field actually, there, got serialized field, private vec3 offsets. Now let's get a radius, serialized fields, private float, radius, move this up here, God. So if collider's.length is greater than 0, so that means if it's detecting a collider and it'll increase the length of the array, then we'll return true. Else, we'll return this method false. Oh yeah, and now we're gonna have to make the jump function, so private void jump. So the if is grounded and input dot get button down jump, then add a force, add force vector3 dot up multiplied by some value, jump, call this jump height, force mode dot impulse. Jump shouldn't be in fixed update because it'll make the jump height inconsistent. So update. Now we want to see where the overlap sphere is. Otherwise we won't be able to know where it is. So void private void on draw gizmos dot draw sphere from position dot offset radius. So it'll take the center and then the radius, and it'll do it as long as this is on. That's the draw gizmos button. You can change what is visible and what is not. So yeah, and now you need a camera. Create an empty object and call this target. Let's move this over here. This is for later. And now for the jump height, allow that. Yes. See jump height. See 10 radius. Sprint value multiply by 2. But that won't work because we haven't done anything with that value. But counter movement 20, I'd say that's a good value, and movement speed 100, that's a good value too. It's sprint value. Create a local variable. Call this float speed multiplier equals if, say, you press shift input dot get key down key code left shift, then if you press shift, then get sprint value and then turn that into 1 if you're not holding shift. So then you multiply this by movement speed and it should be done. That's about it for movement speed and script. Now for the camera. We're going to create a camera controller. Let's create another script. Call this camera controller. We're going to make it locked towards the target and rotate transform position equals the target. Let's see private field vector3 target. Actually no, transform, not vector3, transform target dot position. What plus an offset, just in case. Serialized field, private, vector3 offset, needs to be vec3. Offset, what's this? Now, for the camera orientation, so private void, camera, got camera orientation. Private float mouse X and mouse Y. Doesn't really matter what you call them, so we can call them X and Y. So mouse X, subtract equals input dot get axis raw. Now, just like we said, we're gonna do mouse inputs, so just do mouse Y and do mouse Y plus equals inputs dot get axis raw mouse X float clamped X mouse clamped X. Create a variable, call this private float constraint ff, or just call it constrained clamp. So mouse X, negative constrained, and then constrain. I'm gonna assign its rotation. So transform dot rotation equals dot Euler. Now see the mouse command axis, mouse Y. Then transform that rotation Euler angles dot Z. And that should be about done. Could refactor this. Extract method. Call this camera track over here. Now that's about done. And so is this. See if that's all good. Yep. Now we can set up the animations. And that'll be it. The target should be this target. Guess we don't need an offset. But just in case. So just pair it to there. 500. It just has to be 0. You just move this up. And over here. That seems about right. Or this. I don't like it when it's like that. Like that. Oh, there we go. That's assigned. Set up to 60, so when we like look up or down, it won't rotate all the way. So that's good. That's good. Double checking. It needs a rigid body. And capsule collider. So about this really depends on your character. This should be all right. Let's over it all. Press play. It should be able to move the player. And that it didn't work. Should probably lock these rotations. But I also forgot to make the player rotate with the camera. So let's do this. Rotate player rotation. So player rotation. Private void player rotation. Now get a cam reference, so just do private game object or transform. We only need the transform of the camera. So cam game object that find with tag main camera. A camera. We should find an object with a tag called main camera. So if I move this over here, transform dot rotation equals quaternion dot Euler transform dot Euler angles cam dot Euler angles Y transform dot Euler angles dot Z. And that's about it. You could also save this as target quaternion cam. Let's do this and just do this and then done. It'll just find the tag of the main camera and I can show you where the tags are. And if you don't have the main camera tag, you just create one from you can just create a tag from here and call it main camera. So we'll just move these scripts into the scripts folder. So just move these scripts into the scripts folder and then just playtest. I forgot to reference something. Oh, that's just random Unity error from out of nowhere. Yeah, see, it's a player. Anyways, you can move, sprint, jump. That's a bit too high, but yeah, looks good. So now for the animations. First, we'll with the animator. You might want to cut your jump animations to the part where they are falling. So let's see, entry, idle, or first we'll just create a state right click, create state from new blend tree, rename this to simple movement. Now press the blend tree and then just add a new motion field. This will be the idle animations from top to bottom. Add another motion field. This will be the walking animation. Another motion field. This will be the running animation. Turn animate thresholds off. I usually put this maybe like 5, and this will be like 10. And this will be 5. Make this twice as fast. Okay. So yeah, this was over here for some reason. But this should be idle, walking, and then running, top to bottom. I usually do 5. You can mess with it however you want, but I'll just put this to 1. This is the speed of the animation, so I'll just put 2 for the walking animation, just in case. Now for the jumping animation, drag this motion field, go up, the transition from the simple movement to the falling animation, then from the falling animation, transition to the simple movement. You can make a transition through a right click on a motion field. So we'll create a parameter, press this plus button, make a bool, call it is grounded, and it'll transition to the falling animation. If it's not grounded, it'll transition to the falling animation if it's grounded. Just delete this, or turn off exit time and turn off exit time. I usually turn these off unless you have a reason to keep them on, because for like moving animations, I just turn them off because they kind of create a delay. And for the transition time or transition duration, I usually, for the landing one, when you're landing on the ground, I'll have this, and if we press play, it won't work. So this is because we'll have to go over this in script. So make a new method called animation and create a variable of type animator. So private animator, animator, and call this anim. Now just create the method. So private void animation anim. Forgot to reference this. So make sure you reference the animator. So it's get components animator anim equals anim.set bool. So it'll be the name of the parameters. So this is grounded. So I'll just do is grounded. Then one of the variables we have. So this will be is grounded. Now the blend tree, well, it's called blend, so we'll just do anim.set float blend, and this will be connected to the speed of the player. So we're running velocity.magnitude. This bool in the animator parameter will be connected to the if you're actually grounded bool. Now if we playtest this, it should work the way we want it to. Okay. I also forgot to give an animator. Make sure you do that. Just add an animator. But if you already made an animation on your character, it shouldn't really affect it that much because it'll already apply an animator. Hold on. Let me delete this. Oh, no, not delete it. Go to prefabs. Or let's go over here. Player. I'll just do. Does it have that? Apply. Then I'll just move this up. I'll just apply everything. Move this up. I forgot to give it the avatar and the animator controller. So make sure you have the animator controller assigned. So one thing, we have to add a layer mask, so otherwise it'll work with literally anything. Layer mask, rounded over here, and it should work now. And also forget to add a serialized field to it. So here we go. So I set this to the ground layer. I've already created the ground layer. So I've set the terrain's layer to ground. You can create a layer over here. And also I've set all these cues to ground layer. Now press play. play test it, and it should work. What's happening? So yeah, you're gonna have to loop your animations. Loop time, loop time, loop time, and loop time. So I just want to make something a bit faster, which is the walking animation 3 times faster. Or maybe I should decrease the threshold to about 4 and about 7 or 8. And there we go. It should work perfectly fine. Yeah, it works perfectly fine. So I run. I probably didn't set up the multiplier. Oh yeah, and one mistake. Do get key instead of get key down, because that would just be like if you just press it once. So if I hold shift, it should sprint. Okay. So if I hold shift, it should sprint. Yep. It's working perfectly fine. Should probably move the camera up a bit. Okay, turns out I forgot something. I forgot to lock the cursor and make it invisible. I'll show you how to do. So cursor, then access its locked state, then assign that locked state to cursor mode.locked, and make the cursor invisible. Cursor visible equals false, and we're done. And yeah, that's about it for this tutorial. Just character movement. Oh wait, don't leave yet. You can fix the sprint with this line of code, so you don't sprint in midair. So, see ya.